All right. Uh, yeah, settle in. This is going to be a longer one because what we're watching right now isn't a single outburst. Um, it's not just a bad post, um, or a moment of cruelty taken too far. It's a stress fracture in a political system that has been pretending for years. That reality can be bent indefinitely without consequences. So let's actually unpack this slowly, properly. After Trump went after Rob Reiner and his wife following their murder, something snapped.
He became like a deranged person, Trump derangement syndrome. So I was not a fan of Rob Reiner at all in any way, shape, or form. I thought he was very bad for our country. Yeah.
The point is that there are lines that, once crossed, don't just offend people, they destabilize coalitions. Trump didn't just insult a critic. He mocked a family tragedy, a murder, a situation involving addiction, mental health, and irreversible loss. And he did it reflexively, almost mechanically, like the system he's been running on for years no longer has a braking mechanism. Take Senator John Kennedy. He didn't dress it up. He didn't deflect. He didn't both sides it.
A wise man once said nothing. Why? Because he's a wise man. I think President Trump should have said nothing.
Boundaries matter, especially when they haven't existed before. Then you turn on Fox News, and this is where things get really interesting.
On Laura Ingraham's show about how Rob talked when Charlie Kirk was assassinated. I knew Charlie Kirk. I supported him. I'd seen him last year just before Christmas. And to know that he had been assassinated was so devastating. People said such horrible things. And Rob did not. And when people say horrible things about Rob right now, I find it, quite frankly, infuriating and distasteful.
If Joe Biden had said this about anybody, I would have attacked him and said he was completely wrong. I do hope the president comes back and corrects himself.
Well, he was asked to, and he didn't. But I get why you're upset.
It's wrong. I don't disagree with you, but it's wrong, and we should be able to call out right and wrong. We've talked about it on the show this earlier today. That's wrong what he did.
The moment you apply the same moral metric to him as you would to his opponent, the entire justification framework collapses. Trump was asked to correct himself. He didn't. And even within that Fox conversation, the language shifted. It's wrong, not complicated, not strategic, wrong. Then came the cascade. Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is not exactly known for restraint, posted a statement framing the Reiner murders as a family tragedy. She talked about addiction, mental health, empathy. She explicitly said it should not be about politics. Thomas Massie went further. He called the discourse inappropriate and disrespectful. And then he exposed the fear dynamic. He said GOP colleagues, the VP, and White House staff would probably ignore it because they're afraid to cross Trump, afraid of retaliation, afraid of being exiled. And then he challenged anyone to defend the comment. That challenge hung in the air. Stephanie Bice said mother and father were murdered by their troubled son, and that the response should be prayer, not politics. Jenna Ellis, Trump's former attorney, pointed out the hypocrisy directly. The right condemned celebratory responses to Charlie Kirk's death. This was no different. And she added something critical. It was especially disturbing given that Trump himself had survived attempts on his own life. In other words, if anyone should understand the gravity of this kind of rhetoric, it's him. Piers Morgan called it dreadful and told Trump to delete it. The editor-at-large of Christianity Today wrote something that should give anyone pause. She said that the normalization of this kind of vile behavior is something future generations will study with shame. That's not just condemnation. That's historical framing. Geraldo Rivera said Trump mocked the brutal murders of Rob and Michelle Reiner and called it gross and low class. Sage Steele said the tweet was disappointing and unnecessary, and that comments like this undermine the positive things Trump claims to have done. Brian Hollyand, a Gen Z conservative commentator, delivered what might be the most strategically important critique of all. He said, taking a victory lap when a critic is killed is how you lose Gen Z and independence. That's not moral outrage. That's electoral reality. Even Seth Dillon from the Babylon Bee, a site built on satirizing liberals, simply said, this is real. Sadly, now, here's where we need to be honest. None of this should be surprising. Trump's comment was depraved. It was disgusting. But it was not new. It wasn't a departure from character. It was a continuation. This is a man who publicly called for the execution of teenagers who were later proven innocent. A man who has spent decades dehumanizing immigrants, mocking women, ridiculing the disabled, and rewarding cruelty as a form of loyalty signaling. So when people say this is a new low, I genuinely don't know what timeline they've been observing. This is the same behavior applied to a different target. And I don't say that to shame anyone who's just now recoiling. Late realizations are still realizations. But we need to stop pretending this is a sudden transformation. It's not. It's pattern completion. Now, another critical clarification. This does not mean the Republican Party has suddenly become principled. It hasn't. This backlash represents a small fraction of Republicans, and most of those voices don't hold significant institutional power anymore. One is nearing the end of their term. Others operate on the margins. This is not a moral awakening sweeping through the GOP, but that doesn't mean it's meaningless, because context matters. A few months ago, even this level of public pushback would have been impossible. Careers would have ended. Access would have been revoked. Funding would have disappeared. The fact that it's happening now tells us something fundamental has changed. Trump is weakening, publicly, structurally, systemically. Why? There are several plausible forces converging at once. First, approval ratings. Trump's numbers have cratered in key demographics. Independents, younger voters, suburban voters, groups that elections are actually won or lost on. Second, electoral reality. Republicans are watching Democrats flip seats in deep red districts by double-digit margins, 12 points, 15 points, areas that were supposed to be safe. That creates panic, not ideological panic, survival panic. Third, brand toxicity. Aligning with Trump increasingly feels less like strength and more like contamination. Candidates tied too closely to him are watching their own prospects collapse. At some point, self-preservation overrides fear. Fourth, exhaustion. Trumpism is loud, constant, aggressive. It demands perpetual outrage. That's energizing at first. But over time, it becomes draining. Even for loyalists. If this analysis helped you understand what's really happening beneath the noise, support independent voices, share this. subscribe, stay engaged. His clarity is the only real antidote to manipulation. Thanks for listening.